Thank you, Minister. The member for Albany.
Mr Speaker, I raise my grievance today to the Minister for Energy on behalf of the people of Albany. I understand she has a family commitment and I thank the Parliamentary Secretary for taking my grievance. On the 19th of March, I raised this matter in this space. Today, I want to update the House on what has changed since and place some further facts on the record for Albany. In just the last few weeks, 2,754 people have signed a petition calling on the state government to commit a better solution for Albany. Over 450 of those people walked through my electric office door in person to sign in just a matter of weeks. In an electorate the size of Albany, that is not background noise. It is 2,754 individual acts of the community saying right now that it does not believe that it's being listened to. In March, the Parliamentary Secretary made 3 commitments to this House on the Minister's behalf, and Albany deserves to know what's actually been delivered. On staging, the government has followed through. The Minister has since written to ATCO and has secured a delay to switch off the gas to early 27, with the CBD to be the last area affected. This is real and I acknowledge that. On the working group, the body has also been stood up, bringing together the City of Albany, Synergy, Western Power, ATCO, Supergas and trade groups. Also real, but not exactly representative of the Albany community it is meant to serve. On support, the record is a little thinner. The Parliamentary Secretary told this House that households and businesses would not be left high and dry, and that work was underway to determine that support would look like. 6 weeks later, that support arrived as $9 million for social housing, properties to convert away from gas, and $1.8 million for planning and options assessment for everyone else. Planning is not support. For the households and businesses on this network who are not in social housing, there is still no funded pathway to transition, only a promise of one that is being worked out. And on the specific question I asked in March about electricity network capacity, when thousands of homes and businesses switched from gas to electric appliances at once, still been no public answer. I want to put some facts on the record about the company at the centre of this, facts the Minister will already be aware of, but which the government has been remarkably quiet about in public. ATCO is a Canadian company and in 2011 paid $1.1 billion for the whole of WA's gas distribution business. One licence covering Perth, Geraldton, Kalgoorlie, Bunbury, Busselton, Harvey, Pinjarra, Brunswick Junction and Capel, as well as Albany. Some 750,000 customers, over 14,000 kilometres of pipeline. Albany's network is only around 160 kilometres with 8,000 clients. It's a small part of that business. ATCO's own Executive General Manager for Gas Operations has put the cost at replacing 90% of that network at $80 million, with no independently published assessment behind that number or the actual state of the network. With an exemption from the Economic Regulation Authority for reporting from 23 to 28, this closure has been in the planning for some time. Even taken on face value, $80 million to replace the network, one that is such a modest sum against a $1.1 billion business. If cost alone justifies walking away from Albany, other regional communities on that same licence are entitled to ask the same question we are asking today. What protects them from the same argument the next time a small regional network looks expensive on the balance sheet? The networks for Bunbury and Geraldton are 40 years old. Are they to suffer the same fate? There's a further inconsistency I put to the Minister. When this government talks about renewable energy program, it talks about synergy and public investment driving the transition. But Bright Energy Investment, which owns Albany's own Grassmere wind farm, along with other projects, is a joint venture between our own Synergy, a global infrastructure fund and an industry super fund, public and private capital working together. This government is entirely comfortable with claiming credit for that kind of transition, then it cannot tell Albany that ATCO's decision is beyond its reach. The tools it uses confidently elsewhere, public ownership, regulation, funding agreements, legislation, are exactly what Albany is now asking it to use here. Apart from the loss of what you would consider a basic modern facility of reticulated gas for residential customers, The greatest impact is to our hospitality industry and ultimately our tourism industry that drives our town. There is simply no commercially viable alternatives for a majority of those businesses. Before we move further down the transition pathway, a pathway nobody in Albany wants, there needs to be an honest assessment retaining the network in its current form. Simply allowing another provider to take over the network is the cheapest option for the WA taxpayer. It's unfortunate that the responsibility will rest with them, but it is a reality. I ask that the government puts as much effort into finding a practical solution as it does into living in the past and casting blame. We would all be better off for it.
Thank you, Member. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Energy and Decarbonisation.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Albany for his grievance today. The Minister for Energy and Decarbonisation has asked me to respond in her place, and I thank the member for his understanding. The government recognises that ATCO's decision to decommission the reticulated gas network in Albany has created uncertainty for households, small businesses and the broader local economy. I acknowledge that concern of the community that ATCO's decision has caused the people of Albany, as expressed through their petition to the Parliament. It remains the Minister's strong expectation that ATCO acts as a responsible corporate citizen throughout the decommissioning process. This means not walking away from the community that they have served, but instead contributing meaningfully to the transition of their customers. The people of Albany deserve nothing less. We understand that the community is seeking clarity about the future and that they want it sooner rather than later. That is very fair and reasonable. While this work must be done carefully to ensure the right outcomes, I can assure the member that providing that clarity remains a priority for the Minister. This will be a significant change for Albany, and the government is working to ensure that the community is supported, informed and given the tools that they need to move forward with confidence. ATCO made a commercial decision to decommission the network. That is a fact. It is a decision taken by a private entity. It is not one that the government can reverse. As the member is aware, gas distribution was privatised under a former Liberal National government. We are now dealing with the consequences of this. Our government has always supported keeping our energy utilities in public hands. I know that the member understands the importance of this. In comments made to the media, the member has stated, "I don't think any utilities actually should be in private hands. They all should be sort of government controlled." A decision made at the time, obviously, with a previous administration that we're sort of now wearing the results of. The member goes on to say, "I know Western Power was on the table at one stage, and those sorts of things should never, ever be sold off." I can assure the member that this government's firm belief is that essential energy utilities should be owned by the people of Western Australia. The situation in Albany is the legacy of an approach that prioritised privatisation at the expense of long-term certainty for regional communities. The member has suggested that the government should acquire the network. This would require the taxpayer to foot the bill for a problem created by past decisions of those opposite. The cost of that bill would be astronomically high and would need to be passed on to consumers in the form of higher gas bills, as it would be a regulated asset. This is not a sensible or responsible use of taxpayer funds. The government remains focused on the future. We're standing alongside the Albany community, ensuring they are supported through this transition. The Minister has engaged with the City of Albany, the member for Albany and with ATCO executives to ensure that the impacts are clearly understood and that the expectations and experience of the community are front and centre. The government has established a dedicated working group to guide the transition. This group brings together representatives from the City of Albany, relevant government agencies and key stakeholders, ensuring that local knowledge and community priorities are at the forefront of this decision-making. This group is informing the practical transition pathways for customers while ensuring that the Albany community is kept informed. We've already announced $10.8 million to assist social housing properties to transition to alternative energy sources and to assess their options for the wider community. We've also successfully advocated to ATCO for the transition to be pushed back to next year. We are taking this time to plan and set up coordinated support for the broader community. This follows seeking an assurance from ATCO that the decommissioning of the network will occur with a staged approach. The decommissioning will occur over a period of years, not overnight. We know that time matters for households and businesses in Albany. It means the difference between a rushed and costly change and a considered, manageable transition. The government will continue to work with all stakeholders to ensure this transition is managed in a way that is fair, orderly and supportive of the community. We have always been clear that support will be made to the Albany community as it transitions to alternative energy sources. Households and businesses in Albany will not be left high and dry. The government has not been passive. We are actively planning for Albany's future. To the Albany community, I say that your concerns have been heard. Your government remains engaged on this issue.